Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to USTA Florida's Here to Serve podcast. My name is Laura Bowen, and I'm the Executive Director at USTA Florida. And today, for the month of April, we have a very special guest who's going to talk about all things Special Olympics here in Florida. My guest is Sherry Wheelock, and Sherry is the Chief Executive Officer of Special Olympics Florida. Thank you, Sherry, for joining us on the podcast today.
Well, thank you, Laura. We are very excited and just thankful for the partnership we've had for years. So, very excited to be here today.
Excellent. Well, we're super grateful for you guys and the partnership we've had for many, many years. I thought we'd start with you, if you don't mind, and see if you might tell our audience how you got involved in Special Olympics Florida and why the work you do at Special Olympics Florida means so much to you personally.
Sure. I really have just been so thrilled to be part of this mission. And sports has always been a part of my life growing up. Luckily, I had parents who really saw the value of what you get from sports, whether it's teamwork and leadership, etc. So I think sports has always been a passion. And then as I worked in my careers, I did a lot of volunteer and mission based work with people with intellectual disabilities. And so as I was at Universal, I actually ended up on the board of directors for Special Olympics Florida as their representative. But the best part about that is it wasn't a typical board experience that is just governance and oversight. You were extended this great opportunity to be as involved as you like. So I quickly was allowed to volunteer for fundraising for the gala. But the best part is I got to be a volunteer coach. And so I was an assistant coach in both golf and swimming during my board tenure. And I think that is what really opened me up to the experiences that I thought would be an incredible a part of not only the Special Olympics mission, but also my life was just the time I spent with the athletes and to see how the programs, this mission delivers really impacts their progress as far as their life skills, their social skills. It was just tremendous. And so, I'm very, very honored to be actually have a role now within Special Olympics Florida on their team and continue to elevate that mission alongside the athletes. So it's amazing.
I love hearing your story. And I love that, one, we're very lucky to have you in the role that you are now, but also to have somebody in that role that served as a coach in two different sports. You have such a great perspective on the value of doing programs for Special Olympics athletes. We've talked in the past a couple of times about the impact that COVID and the pandemic had on Special Olympics Florida athletes and their families, what they were able to do and what they weren't able to do. How has access to sports helped the families you serve overall, especially during the pandemic? And how is participation now across the state in the sports?
Great. Well, and it's really great to be talking in April because it's National Volunteer Month, as you mentioned, and so
Yep.
we're so grateful to have so amazing volunteers. A lot of your coaches and teachers are our coaches. So, yes, you're wonderful to be so generous to us. So, thank you, all our volunteers out there. But yeah, the pandemic was, COVID's impact was certainly felt. I think as much as it was by everyone else. I mean, there was tremendous loss within our Special Olympics family. There was a huge toll, just like most people, I think, in experience with the isolation, causing additional mental health challenges. Many of our athletes thrive, as most of us do, I think, on a consistent schedule. They look forward to their training every week. They look forward to coming together with their friends for competitions, their dances, so many things that are in addition to just their annual, weekly training. And for that all to be taken away so quickly, it's a lot for anyone to digest. And especially, I think our athletes, it's challenging. So once again, we morphed very quickly to virtual, which helped somewhat. Because obviously we can continue engagement through fitness. I know you all did a lot of trainings
We
through
did.
tennis, which was amazing for our tennis athletes or any athletes that wanted to come on for that. Um, but our coaches once again became super critical. So our families would reach out to the coaches for advice on how to, kind of keep their athletes engaged and get them through this time. A lot turned to virtual training, which was exciting. We had an athlete ride, I think 3,500 miles virtually to do a
Wow.
really great challenge, and we had another athlete run a marathon virtually. So there was some really cool stories that came out of it. But we felt that getting sports available very quickly with the right protocols and safety was important. So we're thankful that tennis was one of our first sports we went back with at a local level for training, and we did see people want to return, and get out and be, active. And I think again. Sports was so important, in these individuals' lives because of the health side of it too. We just needed to keep people active. We needed to not leave them on, so many of us were doing school online and work online and everything was online, which we understood. But, I do think the action of getting people out slowly and safely back on the playing field was important. So we're proud to say that we were able to do that, in a reasonable time frame. And then as we've gone through 2021, we've grown more through, bringing regional competitions back into action. And then in 2022, we've had a couple of statewide competitions for the first time that have actually brought some people in for overnight stays. So I think
Yay.
that, yeah, I think that was the biggest challenge for us was,
Hmm.
we think the local training made a lot of great sense, but the actual thought of moving everybody and bringing them in was a little bit of a challenge, but we were really excited to see things move forward. And we have our summer games coming up May 20th and 21st at ESPN Wide World of
Hmm.
Sports. So that'll be our first large event in person. And then, as you know, our USA Games are coming in June 5th.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. And since you brought up
Okay.
tennis, we're going to talk a little bit of
Great.
tennis. First, you
Sure.
did mention it was one of the first sports to reopen, and we were so grateful to have a partnership with you because a lot of the world really started to turn to tennis as a safe way to play in that sea of unknown during COVID. And
Sure.
you guys were fantastic to work with to really spread the word and say, how can we get more athletes participating in a sport like tennis during that time where people really needed something to do recreationally?
Yeah.
We've had a partnership of both USTA Florida and our USTA Florida Section Foundation with Special Olympics Florida for many years now. And I wanted to ask you your perspective on how our partnership has maybe helped to expand those opportunities for athletes to specifically play tennis.
Right. So again, something you guys have been doing for years, but I have been so impressed. I think the opportunity to partner with you for grants for adaptive equipment has transformed the opportunities for athletes. Many of our athletes don't have. It sounds silly, but they don't have that extra dollars to
Hmm.
invest in an adaptive racket or
Yeah.
special balls and things like that. So that in alone has been a really great impact in expanding the reach. But I think also the coaching element is so critical.
Mhm.
I can't say enough about our coaches. I mean, they are like really the backbone of what we do every day, and to have the skill set of your coaches engaged with our athletes, has again grown the interest, grown the access. I think one of the hardest things is that transportation is a big challenge for our program, and so bringing the program to them locally is important. And every time we've had an opening, of like, hey, we want to start something up in Jacksonville, you guys have always been tremendous to say, well, we know this coach or we know this
Mhm.
venue, and so those are really important to be able to really move forward the programming as well as the reach of what we do. So again, like all of those things have been tremendous. And then again, you've made it opportunities for athletes for different invitationals to be part of. You've done a lot of cool things that we were, doing as far as like just showcasing different
Mhm.
skill sets and things. And so I think all of that, has really made us stronger.
And we're with you with the coaches. This wouldn't happen without our coaches, many of whom are volunteers. They give their time, and we're fortunate that I don't know if it's a Florida culture. I can only speak for my state, and of course, I'm biased, and I think Florida is the best. But whenever we've gone to any type of individual in Florida who's either an existing tennis coach or is a volunteer and we've asked them to do any type of adaptive programming, the answer always overwhelms me. Like, I'm always prepared to hear no, I don't have the time, and I never hear no. I always
Right.
hear yes. And if we can get this, this, and this from you guys, we can make it happen. So it's our coaches really are the best, and I'm grateful to all of them as well. You
Yeah.
mentioned the state games, which is one of my favorite times of year. It is just around the corner. And a couple years ago, we actually switched the dates so that the tennis games were earlier. And at that time, when we did it, it's the first weekend in May. We had this silver lining to making that switch where some of the athletes could actually play more than one sport in the state games, which helped us to get more participants, even. I think last year we did the state games, we had a tremendous turnout. So, can you tell me a little bit about what the athletes and their families and caregivers could expect at this year's games? Like, from an overall perspective, what's going to be
Yeah.
fun and exciting for them?
No, that's great. Well, I think, first of all, that was also something I should have mentioned is just, continuing to provide like a venue like USTA Florida for our statewide efforts and experience. Again, for our athletes to have that experience, to be on a professional court, to be in that environment, it's so exciting and exhilarating. And so, you guys also do a great job of getting fans out there. We had, as you mentioned, last year was kind of our first, entree back in. I think this year, obviously, we're going to see a lot more engagement from the athletes as far as participation. So we're excited to see them come out and have them more people travel in this time. We are hoping to get back to some of our normal like opening ceremonies and a little bit more robust. I think social experiences, and I'm really excited too. One of our uh, volunteers and fans, Mark and Becky Walsh. They're huge tennis players, and they have just
Oh,
pretty much came on as our year-round sponsors for our tennis
okay.
program and our Team Florida. And so I think having them there to really cheer on our athletes is going to be a really special moment too. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun things happening, and we're going to be celebrating our 50th. Our 50th anniversary is this year.
Wow.
So we'll make sure that we're having some special giveaways for the athletes for our 50th as well. So we're yeah, lots of things happening in
I
2022.
love it. And I hope the dance party is coming back because that was one of my
Yes,
favorite things.
yes. I think a virtual dance is a different feel
Yeah,
to
it
it.
doesn't kind of go the same.
Yeah, so I think everybody's been really excited about that too, coming back.
Right. Well, we absolutely can't wait. It's only a few weeks away, and our staff always, there's always a buzz here. And, we have so many of us that are like, put me on the schedule. I don't even assign me whatever you want to assign me. I just want to be there and help and support. So you're going to have a very happy crew from USTA Florida out there and also the USTA National Campus supporting that event.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. Yeah.
So we have another exciting event coming up. Orlando is home to the USA Games here
Right.
in June. So a month after our state games, you all are doing a phenomenal job of planning the USA Games here in Orlando, and the tennis will also be held at the USTA National Campus. So my question to you is, how special is it that Central Florida will be hosting these games? And what can the athletes from Florida who are going to come to the USA Games expect from that experience?
Yeah. Well, we are so proud. I mean, we were just so proud to win the bid back in 2018. And the team who's been working on the USA Games has been doing a tremendous job of making it a great awareness around our event, but also our mission, right? So, some great athlete stories, great engagement with amazing new partners. So, that's been exciting. But yeah, it's the first time ever in the history of Florida that we will host this event. So, and it should be the largest humanitarian event that's ever been held here. And I think the
Wow,
second largest sporting event is what I
amazing.
understand in the state of Florida. So to be here, It'll be June 5th through the 12th. They are still in need of some volunteers. So I think that would be our call to action. If you want to come out and volunteer, lots of great and different ways to volunteer, anything from, sports to just helping out with fans in the stand to keeping people hydrated. So lots of fun ways to engage. I think it's going to be really special though for all of the visitors coming in, because many times they're used to staying in dorms or being on a college campus, which is awesome and a really great experience. But to really get to come to the venues that Central Florida hosts, I think once again, as I mentioned, like, playing at the USTA National, I mean, like, how can you, compare that to, playing on a college courts, I'm sure are very nice. But I think it's just a little bit of the esteem and,
Yeah.
prestige of doing that. I think also they'll be in the hotels for the first time, really staying in, Disney themed hotels, which is a wonderful experience,
Yeah.
and having opportunities to just have a lot more access and resources, I think, than they're used to at these types of events. So we couldn't be more thrilled. I think the planning's gone very well. People are excited to come, and Team Florida's ready. So I think while we are familiar with these, venues, I think there's still a lot of people who may have not have played actually up here. So that's kind of exciting,
Right.
because we do have 60,000 athletes across the state. So not everybody comes up, right, every state games. And they're really ready competitively. They've been training, alongside their coaches throughout the state. And it's going to be pretty exciting. I think we have the largest delegation. I think it's 600 people coming. So
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, we'll be there.
We'll be
And
well represented in
yes, we will be
Florida and we'll
represented.
be cheering them on. And I know that
Yeah,
we have some wonderful volunteers who've been working on the tennis side as well. Scott Mitchell, I think, is heavily involved, Alexis
yeah,
Johnson. And so we have a lot of people that are in our tennis network that have stepped up to coordinate on both the volunteer and the tennis side. So we're very excited
sure.
um,
And I
to
think
see
we have
that come
some,
to fruition.
and
Mhm.
in Florida, I think we have some extraordinary tennis athletes. So I'm excited.
We do. We do have some excellent tennis athletes, and we are excited to see them compete. And it's nice to have it next door because we can go over and watch. So there will definitely be fans in the stands that week of June. And, for anyone listening
Great.
to this that wants to step by and cheer us on, please do.
Good.
We'll always be cheering for Team Florida.
Super. Super.
So, my last question
Yeah.
for you is, as you look ahead to the future of adaptive sport in the state of
Mm.
Florida, what do you think the tennis industry can do to make sure that we continue to expand opportunities for all athletes to
Great.
play?
Okay, so I think along the lines of the adaptive equipment resources, I think is again a need, right, to get somebody started, to get them, outfitted. I think it's, very important. But I think also something you and I had talked about before, Laura, is we're, and I think you guys are thinking through this, is really activating the parent or caregiver network, maybe with some additional resources, ways that they can understand kind of the skills and the techniques and how those all kind of act to get work together to get those athletes back on the court. So I loved hearing the stories when we first kind of started the different types of balls, like the red ball, the green ball,
Mm-hmm.
the yellow, and how an athlete who had been only able to just do skills for 10 years, all of a sudden, when she was introduced a different type of ball that bounced differently, she was actually able to volley for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
in 10 years. I can't even imagine,
Amazing. Mm-mm.
So to, I think, continue our education, and the resources to our parents and caregiver, community, even volunteers as well.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a great way to continue the growth that we've had, and introduction, because I think tennis is a lifelong sport, and
Mhm.
one that we want as many people to play as possible. So it's great.
Yeah, and the great thing is everybody can play together. I know we've identified there's a lot more we could do in that parent space for everyone. I think the questions we get asked most frequently are resources for parents. We're working
Mm,
hard to put some additional resources out there. So that feedback
it's great.
is super helpful because I can take that back to our team and say, let's make sure that we also have resources for adaptive athlete caregivers, parents,
Mhm.
family members who want to really play together. And that is another great advantage of tennis, is that people of all levels can really play together. I love seeing the caregivers and the parents out there at the state
Yep.
games. A lot of times they're the coaches, and it's wonderful to see them interact with the athletes. So the more we can do for the family unit as a whole, the better.
That's great. Yeah. Actually, I think a tennis coach, when I was practicing with my daughter, said the people who become the most, longer term tennis players and are those that the parents and the caregivers or whoever play with them. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I think the more of that unit we can get together, that's wonderful. So, thank
Yeah, and
you.
I think that's one of the most that's a determining factor as to whether someone will play a certain sport, is whether their parent plays. So
Mm.
there's a lot of influence there sort of across the board. So the more we can do to help parents get involved and caregivers and other family members, the better chance that somebody's going to stay in tennis. My mom plays tennis, and that's why I'm involved. So
Aw,
let's see.
that's great. Awesome.
Well, thank you, Sherry, so much for taking the time today and for all that you do. It's just a blessing for me to have you as a partner, and to have you in Special Olympics and doing this important work. And I really, truly, genuinely appreciate everything that you do. And I'm excited that you'll be at. I hope I see you at the state games, and if not the
Yes.
state games, the USA games. I would love to see you in person. But again, appreciate you and all that your team and your volunteers do. It's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. We're grateful for you and for all the work that you guys make possible for our athletes too. So thank you.
For those of you who are listening to the audio only version of this podcast, you can hop on over to USTA Florida's YouTube channel or our Facebook page, where you can see the full video version. And of course, for more information on how you can get involved in Special Olympics, either at the local level or at the state games, or even help out at the USA games, you can visit USTAFlorida.com, or you can visit Special Olympics Florida and follow them on all social media channels like I do. I love following you guys, and I get great content there. So please make sure to check it out. And of course, you can reach out to me at any time with questions. So thank you so much for tuning in, and have a wonderful day.